this is my current camera setup with which I record all my videos. It's basically just this camera on a tripod. And like pretty much every tripod you can buy, it has a quick release plate. And I really like this. But from time to time I also use this smaller tripod, but it doesn't have this quick release plate. And because of that, this sometimes just stops me from using it, because I have to unscrew this plate from here and then screw the tripod onto the camera, and this takes up time. So what I want to do now is to replicate such a mounting plate that I can mount on this tripod that will accept this camera mounting plate. So let's go. It seems like that this plywood is just about the right thickness.
First of all, I took some measurements from the tripod head and scratched them directly onto the wood with a caliper. Then I set up the table saw to these scratch marks. And then, well, cut it out. I drew the shape of the head onto the wood and refined the shape by hand to make it more symmetrical. After cutting and sanding it to shape, I roughly measured the angle of the mounting plate, pretty much 30 degrees. Then I set the table saw to that angle and cut a small strip. Seems like my estimated angle was correct. I eyeball centered the mounting piece on the base, marked around it, and glued two side guides without an angle in place. They are held down with random heavy stuff laying on my workbench.
While this is drying, I can make the lever which locks the plate in place.
I took it off of the original tripod and drew the shape onto some more plywood. And before cutting it out, I drilled the screw hole. The scroll saw leaves the best surface, so no sanding required. Then I tilted the scroll saw to 30 degrees and cut the curved section again.
Well, it turned out that the one I made was a mirror image of the original one, so I made a second one that had the right shape.
One of the side guides interferes with the lever, so I use a handsaw, yes, really a handsaw, to fix that issue.
With the lever in place, I can now glue on the wedge on the other side in the right position.
I glued on with the lever almost closed, so when the glue is dry and I fully close the lever, it applies a little bit of pressure and locks everything nice and securely.
With the glue dry, I can now try it out. And it works really good. Everything is nice and tight. Great!
The last thing to do is to make it look a little bit nicer. Finally, I drilled the holes on the bottom in which the tripod screws into. A 1/4 inch tab would be better, but as I live in the magic world, I can only use a 1/4 inch bolt that I have laying around to create some threads. With the plate mounted, the tripod still has its full movement and is now ready to use. I think I'm finally gonna get more use out of this small tripod for things like multicam shots, and now it's also much easier to film in areas where just a smaller tripod is much better than a bigger one. And it's so much simpler now to switch between the two tripods. I just flip this lever up and take the camera with me. And then I can just take the camera and set it up in the other tripod, which of course has the same mounting plate.